Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm so excited to finally be able to introduce to you the latest personal project that I've been working on. This project is called On the Skin of Giants. Over the course of the next 2.5 years, I will be producing a collection of 25 watercolor and ink illustrations of tree bark as an ecosystem. This is a project that I've been wanting to work on for a very long time. For the past several years, I've been fascinated by the complex micro-ecosystems, just these rich, ever-evolving tapestries that you find on the bark of trees. However, I doubted my ability to do this subject justice, and I was also unsure of how I would fund or get paid for such a niche product. Even though I could spend my life staring at crusty twigs and painting them, I had a hard time imagining that anyone else would want to pay for it. This year, I've been inspired to make some changes by some of my studio mates, who are creating really wonderful work and not letting their own self-doubt limit them, and encouraged me to do the same. I'll leave their information down below. So over the past several months, I've been applying to grants and galleries to show this work, and now would be a great time to mention that I have applied for a major grant from the Canada Council for the Arts for this portion of this project. So hopefully, thank you in advance to the Canada Council for the Arts for supporting this project and making this video possible. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lee Angold. I'm a botanical and natural science illustrator based in Kitchener-Waterloo, Canada. Here on YouTube, I share watercolor techniques and tips and some insights into my daily life as an illustrator. If this is content that you're interested in, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to get to know me a little bit better, I've left all of my links down below. You can also support me on Patreon, where I offer some really cool rewards, including some behind-the-scenes looks and one-on-one coaching. I can't wait to see you there. Remember when we used to travel? Not just on commuter trains like you see here, but on airplanes? Maybe some of you are flying again, I'm not, but my favorite point in a flight was always just a few minutes after takeoff or before landing, where our human environments and their surrounding landscapes just blend into this strange, abstract patchwork quilt of different shapes and colors. And you have to really stare down to try to make sense of this story. A serpentine, inky path as a river. A little rectangle of bright purple is a farmer's flower field. A gash angular on the landscape is a mining operation. I see these same patterns echoed on a micro scale over and over again on the bark of trees all around me. Just as we humans and other living beings on the earth perpetually change our ecosystems as we live our lives, so too do the residents of the much smaller ecosystems of our giant neighbors, our trees. Tree bark, the skin of trees, not only gets overtaken with fungi and mosses and lichen, but this ecosystem also supports animals, from insects to birds and even mammals. All of these tree bark residents transform their environment as they live on it, sometimes even leading to their host's demise. For example, something like an ash borer beetle may bore through the bark of a tree, eventually leading to that tree dying, that tree collapsing, and that environment no longer being suitable for the beetles or any of its other residents. This again mirrors the concerns we have as humans about our effect on our ecosystems, how we are taking too much to the point where the earth might not be able to support us and other members of our ecosystems. Another aspect that really draws me to this project is how it is both a hyper-local as well as a completely universal experience. Although I have enjoyed traveling both across the planet to Australia, as well as much more locally making day trips to natural areas, hiking trails, and arboretums, the truth is pretty much no matter where you live, as long as you're below the permafrost line and there are trees, there will also be ecosystems on those trees. As a matter of fact, although I spent the first few weeks of this project location hunting and doing some local travel to see what kind of subjects I had to work with, what I ended up choosing for my very first subject was actually a tree very close to my studio, within a few blocks away. I actually first photographed this tree very early on in the project, before it had fully leafed out in the spring. And I'd been particularly drawn to focusing on one very crusty branch. However, I happened to walk by this tree again a few weeks later in late spring, and the tree branch that I had been focusing on had not leafed out, so that particular branch of the tree was dead. Of course, the ecosystem on the branch was still very much alive. As you see me cutting this branch down, I do want to make a quick note of what I'm doing and the legality of it. I live in Kitchener, Ontario. That's also where this tree is located. We have a deadfall policy, so trees that are dead or have dead branches, those get cut down by the forestry department and then either get chipped, and the chips get sent to become free mulch, or they're left in place and anyone is free to take that deadfall, to take those tree sections. At the time where I spotted this tree, I could see that the branch I was cutting was dead, so I am not harming a living city tree. However, this is a guerrilla forestry project. I'm sure that if I had called the city and asked them for permission, they would have told me, no, don't cut city trees. In this case, I think I'm still on good terms with the city of Kitchener, and this is one of those cases where I feel okay with asking for forgiveness rather than permission. But regardless, don't cut down living trees, especially not on public property or on any private property that you don't have access to. In general, probably best to leave trees be. Nonetheless, I couldn't resist the opportunity to have this really large, beautiful reference to bring back to the studio and use as the main subject in one of my very large pieces for this collection. So this tree branch will be the focus of a 22 by 30 inch, so that's an imperial watercolor sheet sized illustration of the crown section of this tree. Throughout this project, I'm also working on identifying both this tree species as well as the individual species living on the tree bark of each specimen. In this case, I still have a fair bit of work to do in terms of identification even, especially with younger trees or trees that are not currently in fruit or in flower. It's sometimes difficult to identify a tree from a first glance. One thing I do have going for me in this case is that this is clearly a city-planted tree. So, worst case scenario, I could approach the city forestry department to find out what I'm painting. But more critically, I can reference lists of preferred street planting trees for the region. Recently, the city of Kitchener has been focused in particular on replanting native trees. I still need to go back and check whether there are fruits on this tree and take a closer look, but I think this may well be Nyssa sylvatica, black gum, which is a very common tree originally to this area. But again, this is a very young specimen, so I didn't have quite as much to go on. Knowing for sure the species of tree as well as careful observation as I'm painting of the fungus and lichen that are growing on this tree will help me then identify the species inhabiting the treebark. This is by far the largest painting that I have ever worked on. I've been at this for weeks now, and I'm still only doing the line work on the main foreground branch. My progress when working on such a large piece feels incredibly slow. Not because I'm actually working any slower. In fact, I think that I'm actually making good time, but because there's just so much there, every little bit that I do in a day, I come to the studio and I go away and it looks just the same. I've also discovered that working on such a large piece is also really difficult on my chronically ill body. In the footage you'll see I'm just making do with the equipment I have at the studio right now, but I've had to make some serious changes to my setup with active ergonomic seating and back bracing, a whole bunch of stuff. However, I'm also just having so much fun with this project. Even though I have a huge amount left to do on this large piece, I'm already collecting references for my next pieces and trying to figure out if there's a way that I can make some pieces that are even larger than this imperial-sized watercolor sheet. Throughout this project over the next 2.5 years, I hope to take this opportunity to bring you into my life and share various aspects of this project. Not only the process of drawing and painting each of these illustrations, but also take you on walks and hikes where I find some more of my subjects and maybe paint on location for trees that I can't just cut down. I also want to bring you along for some of the experimentation that I'm planning on doing. I want to create even bigger pieces than this 22 by 30 painting that I'm working on here. And I'm not sure quite how to do that. I think I might have to figure out how to laminate rolled watercolor paper onto a backing panel, like an aluminum panel. So I'll be experimenting with that on a smaller scale for some of my upcoming pieces. I am so excited about this journey. It feels so great to be able to focus on something with all of my attention. I'd love to hear from you. What projects completely captivate your attention? Let me know down in the comments below. And I'm looking forward to sharing every step of this project with you. If you'd like to follow along, make sure that you're subscribed down below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.